Repeated blows to his unformed head is the 7th episode of the 4th season of 2.5 Men. This is directed by Gary Halvorson, and I do not like this episode. I find it to be very boring. There is nothing about this that I enjoyed, but I will go through what happens and try and share some thoughts, but honestly, beyond just not liking it, I don't have a lot to say. It starts off with Charlie and Jake on the sofa. There's a phone call, and then somebody's at the door, and it's a pregnant woman. And I guess we, the viewer, as Alan did, assume that it's a former lover of Charlie's. And I will say, I don't like the episode, but the suspense that we have for maybe a minute, maybe less than a minute, as we find out who she actually is, was pretty decent. It turns out she's actually Berta's daughter, Naomi. And Alan is very attracted to her because he's very attracted to pregnant women. And honestly, I found his behaviour in this episode to be really uncomfortable and not funny. I didn't really care for it at all. To begin with, it wasn't too bad, but I think they kind of milked it a little bit more than they should have done, and ultimately I just found it to be really awkward. Berta is then crying in the bathroom, which I thought was interesting. It's nice to see Berta letting her guard down and showing some true emotions for a change. And she's upset because this is not the life she wanted for her daughter, which is fair enough. And she and Charlie go to talk with the baby daddy to make him pay support and be there. And we'll come back to that, well, in a matter of seconds. We then cut to Alan, who is rubbing vitamin E oil on Naomi. It's very uncomfortable. I don't have a problem with him rubbing vitamin E oil on her, but because he's clearly getting some kind of sexual gratification from this, I didn't like it. We are then with Berta and Charlie, and they're talking with Ronald, who is the apparent father. And that scene, very brief, absolutely fine, didn't really add anything to the narrative, to be honest. Back with Alan and Naomi, she kisses him, she keeps farting, she has a baby. That's basically all that happens in that scene. Well, I say all that happens. I guess having a baby is a pretty big deal. But yeah, she's in labour when Charlie and Berta come home. We're then in the hospital, which was not bad. I feel like, well, I think they did it so they could get another joke out of Alan. I was going to say they didn't have to show that scene. They went above and beyond creating that set, giving us a different location for a couple of seconds. But then I realised actually they probably did that just so Alan could drool over another pregnant woman who's brought into the room. And I didn't like it. There isn't anything about this episode that I enjoyed. Oh, and we found out Ronald wasn't the father. So that's not great either. But Berta did manage to get $4,000 for Naomi, which is fair enough. So nothing in this worked well for me. I didn't care for it. Not a lot happens. It's not interesting. I don't really like Naomi. I wouldn't say I dislike her, but I wasn't watching this thinking, oh, I like this character, I'm interested in her story. I was pretty indifferent. Didn't really like Alan in this at all. It would have been okay, but I think they took it a little bit too far. And honestly, there's nothing about it I enjoyed. For me, repeated blows to his unformed head is not a good episode of 2.5 Men. Usually, even with the episodes that are not great, there's maybe one, possibly there are two things that I like, things that are funny. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's probably one of my least favourite episodes, at least so far. I have seen the entire show before, but I can't remember every episode, so I don't know if there's anything I like less than this, but honestly, it didn't offer me anything at all.